When I said the oldest kid on the block in the last video, I didn't mean that quite literally. I kind of wanted to say that QMain is the parent, I guess, of all the other UI elements that we're going to talk about in this module. This was kind of my attempt at an analogy, and yes, I'll admit it was a poor one. But anyway, what is it exactly? Well, a picture, or in this case a video, is worth 1,000 words, probably more, so let's see it in action right away. I've once again started our amazing Qt Designer tool here, and we're greeted with this already familiar dialog. In this case, however, I'm not going to create a dialog without buttons like we did earlier. Rather, I'm going to create a main window. Hit create. And what's immediately apparent is that, other than it being larger, so let's take care of that first. We have this type here at the top, and down at the bottom we actually have a status bar. Not sure if you can really see it since it's the same color as the rest of the window, but hopefully you can at least see that these alignment dots are missing at the bottom stripe here. If we go right to our object inspector, we see that we have a main window with the class of QMainWindow. We also have the menu bar with the class of QMenuBar, which is this thing at the top that says type here. We'll talk more about the menu bar later on in the video, but you can probably assume that this is what holds the file, edit, settings, and help actions, such as the one we see here in Qt Designer itself. We also have the status bar with the QStatusBar class, which is almost invisible in our case, but we'll take care of that later. And the status bar is used to display, well, the message with the current status of the application, for example, or what the application is doing at the moment, or what it is just finished doing, whatever you want it. But what is this central widget with the class of QWidget? Now you're probably kind of confused. What is it doing here? All this time I've been saying how QWidget is a base class and that everything else derives from it, and now it's suddenly here on the screen. Well, what I said earlier is still correct. However, you can also add a generic QWidget in Qt Designer, which is kind of a container element, a UI element that can contain other UI elements. It works similar to a group box, only that it doesn't really have a border or a label or anything like that. In here, our QWidget is the space or a container between our QMenuBar at the top and our QStatusBar at the bottom. Well, that was a nice speech, Bo, but you really didn't say how QMainWindow is useful. Well, you can see right away that QMainWindow has these two things, the QMenuBar and the QStatusBar, and it also has some useful properties as well. If I go to my property editor here and scroll to the bottom, we have things such as document mode, which can be set to true or false, and we'll talk more about that later on in the course. We also have an interesting property called Unified Title and Toolbar on Mac, which is, as its name says, going to unify the title and the toolbar on Mac operating system. But the most important part is that only QMainWindow can contain the menu bar, the status bar, and also the toolbar, which is something we'll discuss soon as well. QDialog can't do any of those. And honestly, try to remember when was the last time you saw an application without the infamous file edit help up the top here. Wait, are you telling us that we've been using QDialog all this time for nothing? No, not really. I mean, the applications we've built so far work just fine. But as you progress and learn more, you'll probably want to use QMainWindow over QDialog for any even slightly more complex application. That's definitely not to say that QDialog is useless either. In fact, for a preferences dialog, for example, in a large application, the QDialog would be a perfect fit. While QMainWindow looks boring and kind of sad, sitting here empty all by itself, so let's start having some fun with it.